Welcome back to Movies TV Man and Thursday's edition of the DCU Daily. I've tried to sit on the fence over James Gunn's Superman movie. I've tried to be fair as I can be to James Gunn, but calling out the red flags I've been seeing in the past couple of years. Now we are seeing a few clips, a lot of posters, and this film must have the record amount of supporting characters in Superman movie history, and that's something I have many concerns about. More about that a little bit later on. Now, I'm a huge Superman fan. Superman 78 was the first movie I ever saw. I saw it on the small screen with my father and my brother, and I fell in love with film and stories and the character of Superman. That experience was beautiful for me, but I've never really cared about the patriotism angle of Superman. My parents were Greek Cypriots. We were born and raised mostly in the UK. We were rejected by the Greek Cypriot community when we came over here to Cyprus on our holidays, and rejected by English people. We were treated as foreigners, so I've never been a flag shagger. I have a great respect for the British culture. I have a respect for the American culture, even though I think they don't really have much of a history and a culture. What is their history if you think about it? Burgers, steaks, the Civil War, because one half of that country was bringing people over from Africa and using them as slaves and then treating them as second-class citizens and resenting them for wanting to be treated as human beings. So their history isn't that great, if you ask me. I'm also, respectful of my own Greek Cypriot culture, but I'm not really into the patriotism angle. Well, here comes Cosmic Book News with some very, I suppose, problematic news if you are into the patriotism angle of Superman. Here we go again. In what comes as no surprise, James Gunn's Superman ditches the classic and traditional motto of the Man of Steel, replacing the American way with more politically correct, the human way. So it will be truth justice in the human way and not truth justice in the American way. Official Superman movie merchandise featuring David Cornsweet as Superman features a description on the box that replaces the American way with the human way. This lines up with reports that Gunn's Superman movie is more of a take on modern politics than a superhero story. Well, to me, that's not the most problematic thing that's coming out from this movie, because I'm seeing a lot of cringe coming from the marketing we've seen in the past few days. And I mean a lot of cringe. But as I say, I don't care about the patriotism angle of Superman, but I believe this kind of report will hurt the box office. Now, it's very interesting. If you look back to Man of Steel, you never hear the phrase truth, justice, and the American way, but they don't revitalize that motto. Nobody ever talks about it. No one mentioned it in the marketing. This coming out now is very damaging. Although it means nothing to me, the patriotism angle, it means a lot to a hell of a lot of people. And that was one thing that didn't affect Man of Steel. They didn't mention truth, justice in the American way, but they never spoke about not mentioning it. They didn't make a big deal of not mentioning it. And if you're not going to mention it, just shut the fuck up about it and don't make a point of not using it. By replacing truth, justice, and the American way, you will create discourse. You will create debate. And that debate will become very toxic. Now, there have been leaks from test screenings. That's a vibe today. Not just from the Superman test screenings. What about the Fantastic Four test screenings? We're coming to a stage now where test screenings are not being kept secret. And I think it's time to do away with test screenings. We've heard about mutant monkeys basically being an analogy of social media bots. And this whole hashtag, what's it called? Super shit. Now, I don't know if they've done away with the super shit, but it's this kind of thing just hurts the movie. But if this was the only issue, it wouldn't be too much of a problem. Yesterday, we saw some BTS from Gunn and Nathan Fillion having some banter while Fillon's getting his Guy Gardner makeup. I found the banter very, very off-putting. If that wasn't bad enough, we then saw a sneak peek of a scene between Guy Gardner and Lois Lane, aka Nathan Fillion, and Rachel Brosnahan. Lois Lane is basically saying something about his Green Lantern vows, and she says one of your vows should be a new haircut or whatever it is, or a bad haircut. You have to see it to see how cringe it is. It comes across so bad. Now, you could argue that Nathan Fillion's look is very comic book accurate, but I actually think his look in James Gunn's Superman is a parody on the comic book look. And Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner could end up coming across as a parody. And that's one thing you don't want. You see, when James Gunn is using these sensibilities in Guardians of the Galaxy or the Suicide Squad or Peacemaker, it works. But this guy's creative sensibilities are going to be exposed in a Superman movie because you can't use those type of sensibilities in a Superman movie. And you certainly can't be bringing the modern day political commentary into a Superman movie. And this really concerns me. And as I said earlier, the other concerns I have is the record amount of supporting characters in this film. Although Gunn claims that they're not taking center stage, they're there. They have to be represented. We've seen so many posters of these supporting characters in the past few days. And what is the motivation? Why do we have so many supporting characters in this film? Firstly, Gunn's sensibilities are obsessed with characters who are underdogs that maybe have done bad things in their life and have this character evolution and become, and become better people. But I think these types of sensibilities take away from Superman's story, because basically the whole idea of this story is Superman inspiring these metahumans to be better. It makes it more about them than it does about him. But I believe the reason we have a record amount of supporting characters in this Superman movie is because of DEI, representation and inclusion. That's the real reason we have so many supporting characters. And let's be clear, as far as I'm concerned, there's too many supporting characters in this movie. Gunn's also hinted at a spin-off, a crypto animated spin-off, and I'm wondering how much money can something like that make? Would it be an HBO Max movie, a series? I don't know. But there's also the problematic thing that Peacemaker 2 is being released a month after Superman. So while he's promoting Superman, he's promoting Peacemaker 2, which I'm finding very problematic. Because the more you talk about Peacemaker 2, the more you take the attention away from Superman. And that, my friends, is a huge problem. Now, he's told the press, he's denied to the press that Warner Brothers pressured him into reducing the runtime of Superman. Even if they did do that or wanted to do that, he claimed they couldn't do it. Now, we will see. Because as far as I'm concerned, we don't even know the runtime of this movie. Why is it such a secret, James? If this movie, James, is 2 hours long, then you have been pressured to reduce the runtime. and you're lying about not being pressured to reduce the runtime. You told a fan on Threads months ago that this movie would be around 2 hours, 20 minutes. So if it's less than that, if it's 2 hours, you have been pressured to reduce the runtime. So I'm seeing I'm seeing a lot of problems with this movie. And if this movie does make money, from what I'm seeing, congratulations, because you've done the impossible. I still think we could have a year where every CBN is cooked, underachieves at the box office. We will see. Fantastic Four, apparently, the ticketing equipment is breaking down because of the demand to see that movie. This is classic sales tactic. If we tell them that there's a high demand, then they'll go out and pre-order tickets. This is the biggest sales technique, scam, blag in the book, because I used to work in sales. But we'll see how that film does. Nobody knows how this film is going to do. But at some point this month, they are going to start selling tickets for this movie. And that will tell us how much money this movie is going to make. But for the first time, I've been skeptical over Gunn's sensibilities as a director, and I've been concerned if he can really pull off Superman. Don't forget, Gunn never really wanted to direct this movie. He was hesitant in directing this movie. So that tells you a lot. I think he knows that he doesn't have the sensibilities to shoot Superman, to photograph Superman. You see, it's important to develop characters and flesh characters out. But Superman, because of who he is, and comic book movies as a whole, need to look beautiful when you're shooting them. Superman has always been photographed in live action in a beautiful way. Dick Donner photographed him beautifully. Superman 2, 3, even Superman 4, photographed him beautifully. Superman Returns photographed him beautifully. Man of Steel, BVS, the Snyder Cut. The Superboy show, Lois and Clark. Smallville photographed young Clark Kent beautifully. But from everything I've seen from this movie, I'm not convinced that Gunn has the sensibilities for a Superman movie. And it's not just his aesthetics as a director, it's his storytelling aesthetics that really concern me. He's showing more and more from what we're hearing about this movie that he is a one-trick pony. And seeing that Lois Lane and Guy Gardner scene really, really got me concerned.